What's going on, Winnipeg fans all across Canada, all across the United States? You are now boarding the Winnipeg terminal. I'm your host, Mike D'Andrea, along with Joe Pritchard. How we doing, Joe?
Oh, just oh my goodness. I can't believe it. I was able to walk outside today without a coat.
It was short sleeves in January. And how often do we get that in Wisconsin?
Or Winnipeg. It sounds like they're having the same time as we are.
That is very true. And of course, we have different temperature scales, and maybe being a little bit of a weather nerd like I am, I kind of love that stuff. But yeah, 52 degrees Fahrenheit in Eau Claire, and that broke a record by 5 degrees, and that was an old record.
Yeah, it wasn't even close.
No, and we broke a record Monday too. So this has just been a weird winter. We haven't had a lot of snow, and when I was up in Winnipeg in December, they had actually a pretty decent amount of snow, but we didn't have any on the ground yet. And what I thought was kind of funny was it was halfway through December, and Grand Forks, they have all the snow in December. Of course, there was nothing on the ground, even in Grand Forks. It was right before, it was like around Pembina, that I actually saw some snow on the ground. And it was just shocking. It's a trip to Winnipeg in December. You kind of expect the roads to suck.
Well, the last time we drove up in March, we drove through a literal blizzard. So I'm used to that idea too. But I do have a major weather question. Of course, Friday being Groundhog Day. If the groundhog says there's 6 more weeks worth of winter, how does that work when we've only had 2 weeks of winter to begin with?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And I really want to tell that stupid rodent that, he needs to look at a calendar anyways, because regardless, there's still going to be 6 more weeks of winter, whether you listen to Punxsutawney Phil or Sun Prairie Jimmy.
Yeah, Jimmy was a big deal when I was down in the Madison area.
I'm sure he was. Oh, good old Sun Prairie Jimmy. Well, speaking of January, it's still, of course, the last day of January. So it is dry January. Still got to do my Bush NA, but still good night for a latte. And, that means that we're ready for takeoff. I could do a beer commercial, I'll tell you.
Oh, we probably could. Actually, I got some friends over in Vancouver that do a beer and crime podcast. So 2 popular types of podcasts lumped into one.
There was a podcast that I was on, boy, oh boy, it was probably almost 2 years ago at this point, called Banker with a Beer. I don't know if you ever heard of that.
New one on me.
But what is it? I think I forget what bank. I feel terrible for mentioning this and not remembering what bank he works for. But anyways, he does this thing where he has a local brewery, and he has, takes a beer, whatever. Like, it was Moonridge Brewery when I did it. And, we sample a beer, we talk a little bit about it. And then, he brings in, like, me by trade as a meteorologist. He had a lot of weather questions for me and everything. But it was just kind of cool, really laid back conversation with a couple beers, kind of like what we do here too. But like, it's kind of centered around the beer, which, I can always plug a good latte. Or what is it that you have over there, Joe?
I got the local stuff. I'm not doing dry January.
I sometimes wish I was.
If it's over 50 degrees, it's almost summer, right?
Mm-hmm. And Liney's just had their summer shandy release party too. So, I mean, 52 degrees, I think it warrants a summer shandy. And I tell you, if Liney's made an NA of like any kind, I would be all over that like white on rice.
Yes, because you got another month left now, don't you?
Yeah, I challenged a buddy of mine from when I lived in Bismarck. He shocked me because his birthday's in February too. And I told him, I was like, oh yeah, I bet you can't do a dry month. I'd challenge you to a dry February. It's the shortest one. And he was like, done. And he said, by the way, it's rude to do that on someone's birthday month. And I was like, wait, you're actually going to do it? And he said, yeah. So I was like, well, I talked myself into another dry month. So here's to more Bush NA. Or what is it? Blue Moon NA that I had couple weeks ago. That was really good too.
Yeah, it's been getting a lot better on that front too over the years.
Oh, for sure. Now, one big piece of news, just to kind of bring, because I'm sure that people watching are wondering when we're going to get into the actual meat and potatoes of what we normally talk about, which is hockey and football, usually centered around Winnipeg, of course. But this one more dealing with Canada, and of course we've had the developments in the World Juniors Canada team with the names that have come out. There were all the rumors that were circulating for days, but now the list of names has come out since we had last been on, and Carter Hart at the center of that. I mean, he was obviously a cornerstone for the 2018 juniors team, but like went on to have a very successful NHL career thus far. But now, of course, with these very gruesome accusations, it's tough to see that, I mean, to see anyone, just a hockey fan in general, to see five guys have those kind of accusations thrown their way. Tough to see. Obviously, kind of hard to talk about.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough to see and tough to talk about, but it might have been necessary. Completely honest, it seems like the culture of the sport, especially at the lower levels, especially at the junior levels, really needs to be exposed, put out in the open. It sounds like you hear something new every day. It seems like problems all across both the U.S. and Canada at different levels of hockey. It just might be time to start to have some of these things come to light and have the next wave of hockey prospects and hockey players and even hockey fans go, okay, this isn't normal anymore. This isn't okay. This isn't normal. We shouldn't condone it. We shouldn't hide it anymore. We need to get this exposed and we need to get this changed.
Absolutely. And think about it too. Like, you're setting an example for those younger, and yes, we'll even talk about the way younger generation. Like, I got on skates at 3 years old, and, you could be very impressionable at that age. And if they see their heroes doing something like that or just hearing about it, that's not setting the example. And like you said, we need to start exposing this. The days of just, oh, let's keep that behind closed doors, those are long gone. And it's just it's tough to talk about.
It is, but it's also important.
Absolutely.
And it just feels like from where I sit anyway, and I'm not an expert by any means, it just feels like the hockey culture's taken longer to go ahead and realize what kind of problems they've got going on. And from the highest levels, they're doing everything they can to hide it, to keep their money flowing through, to keep their championships coming in. That's got to change too.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, it does start from the top down, and that's kind of why with the Chicago Blackhawks scandal that was going on too. Like, you don't want to use the word. I can't really find the right set of words for this, but like, it was nice to see that come to light. It was nice to see that exposed rather than trying to be kept under wraps or swept under the rug, kind of like it was during, while this was going on. But a couple of years later, it gets exposed, and we can finally start trying to make this right and saying that, hey, this is not tolerable anymore. We can't be doing this.
Right. The hope. And this one too. At first, it's swept under the rug. First initial police investigation. Not much comes of it. It took more pushing. It took litigation. It took more people pounding at the door going, there's more going on here. Open up and show us what's happening for this to have happened. And the hope is that if we can get those doors to start opening, we don't have to wait so long next time for the truth to come out.
Yeah, and I mean, other names too, like Dubé. That was another big one that guy that's having a successful career thus far, and then you have other guys have who have brothers that are currently playing. McLeod, for example. Like what what do you think is going through like his mind? I guess again, it's a very touchy subject, so that's why kind of trying to find the right words here. But what do you think? His brother has going through his mind, knowing that these accusations are thrown his way.
Yeah, it'd be hard to be a family member of one of the accused in this case because you don't know what actually happened. You don't you trust your family member to be doing the right things. It's hard to find out that maybe they weren't. It just really depends on their psyche and what they know and what they believe in to see how they would react to this.
And one last detail on this too, of course, is that the London police will be holding a press conference on February 5th regarding this too. And we just want to emphasize, the list of names came out, and there is the innocent until proven guilty, but at the same time, these aren't just very light accusations; these are very gruesome accusations too. So, you just it just sucks.
It sucks, but like we've been mentioning, it's better for it to have come to light even at this late hour than for it to have never come to light at all.
Yeah, it was 6 years ago now, and at this point, it's better late than never.
Yep, and let's hope and let's keep listening. Let's keep asking the questions. Let's keep paying attention when situations like this arise. And then maybe next time 6 years becomes 6 weeks, 6 days, 6 hours.
And eventually that's gonna be
And
erased from hockey
eventually,
culture.
yeah, and let's hope that as time progresses, we don't have to talk about this anymore.
The zero tolerance policy will finally be enacted, and we can move on and actually enjoy the game of hockey without all of the extra locker room or even outside of the locker room issues.
Well, I don't think we'll ever get there, but that's certainly a good goal to strive for.
Yes, and it's like when you want to put all the safeguards in place, basically. Now, kind of switching gears a little bit to not the happiest topic to talk about either, but the bit of a face plant into the All-Star break that the boys have been through. And I want to say that one of the biggest X factors that we've been saying it, but now that they have been playing without him, we're really starting to see what the team is without Shifley. And it begs the question, remember, before he was extended, all of the question marks that were circling around him, and and I'll admit there were quite a few fans that were like, okay, the way that he's been playing in the last like 2 or 3 years should probably just move on from him anyways. But now, obviously, he's changed up his game a little bit this year. But the fact that he has been such an X factor on this team, he goes down day to day, and this is possibly seems to be turning into an Ehlers situation where day to day has started to become week to week, and you don't want to see him come back too early, but you also don't want to see him, still not back come March.
It's true, but I would say holding him out of the last couple games before the break, taking the long break, would give him time to heal and take the pressure off of, hey, come back as fast as you can. Because that's the way you aggravate injuries. And that's the way you make them go from day to day to month.
And they're not in a bad situation too. Sure, they're on a little bit of a skid. It happens. The best teams go on losing streaks too, unless apparently you're Edmonton. But they're going to have these stretches of adversity, and it's just how they push past it. You don't necessarily need Shifley in the lineup. It's great to have him, but you saw how good the boys did without Kyle Connor. So you could lose one of your top players, you could lose your top player, but the best teams know how to have that depth. They know how to push through it. And, of course, they had a bit of a tough schedule, a tough road trip out east, which coming out of the All-Star break, Pittsburgh, they could be up or down in the stand, but no matter if they're at the bottom of the standings, they're still a tough team to play. And the paint can, PPG Paints Arena, that's not an easy place to play either. And of course, Philly can give us issues too, as we've seen.
We
So
have.
it's not going to be a cakewalk out of the All-Star break either. But to your point earlier, I think this break is very much needed.
It came at the right time too, because there was only a couple of games before the break where they weren't looking so hot. Gives them a time to go back, mentally refocus, take their mind off of hockey for a few days, come back fresh, and go, okay, we did. This was our nice first half. Let's see what we can do to make that carry over into the second half. Easy to drop the couple losses at the end of the first half out of your mind when you've got all that time to refresh. The body will be fresh. A couple players hopefully be back from injury. You can just go ahead and recalibrate and reload right from there.
And that depth that we've been talking about every week is really being tested with some of the injuries that we've had now too. So
yeah. And even moves waiver moves have cost us some depth lately too.
Don't even get me started on Chisholm. That's rough to go to a division rival too. And it's a pickup that makes a lot of sense for Minnesota. You can't really be mad at them, but
well, I can. This... but I mean, that's just my natural state. So
that's fair. Minnesota needs defense. Let's just be honest. Jared Spurgeon can't be out there for 60 minutes, and there's only one of him. So, but it's still like I've seen this on a lot of fan groups on like Facebook and whatnot. Why put Chisholm on waivers and not Stanley? And I want to gather your thoughts on that. Seems like you agree with it.
Well, I don't. There's me trying not to put myself in the GM chair because I'm eminently not qualified for that.
The armchair GM, though.
Yes. Matter of fact, I have an armchair right now that I'm sitting in. However, they've got a lot invested in Stanley, and to just toss them on waivers would be tossing a first-round pick to the weeds, and GMs don't do that. They do everything they can to make the first-round picks work out. If not, they try to get something for him. It sounds like, from what I'm hearing, there was some trade talks about him earlier in the season where they could have gotten a little bit of value. Maybe that fires up closer to the deadline. Maybe he becomes a piece going over while they look for help elsewhere. Always good to have that in your wheelhouse, and you're going to lose a depth player from time to time, but if you have somebody that still has value around the league, you don't want to lose them for free.
Yeah, that's what I think was kind of rough, because it's not like he had a lot of NHL experience, but he had a lot of NHL potential, So
that's a good problem to have, though, is to have too much talent.
Mm-hmm. And to your point about first round picks and trying to do everything that you can to make them succeed, where does Heinola fit in?
Well, there's one less person in his way now, right?
That's fair. Yeah, I was not high on him when he was first drafted. I was like, okay, maybe it's a little too high up in the draft, because what was he, 10th overall, I think?
Yeah, if I remember correctly. It wasn't a low first rounder back then, no.
And anyways, I wasn't very high on him, but like looking at him, I went to a preseason game in Minnesota when he was like that was his basically rookie year, if you will. But he looked actually pretty sharp. It was preseason, so you take it with a grain of salt. But um, I I don't know. I don't know where he's going to fit in. But like you said, there's one less guy in his way now, so I guess there's
One
that.
less guy in his way. He's got the talent. From the sounds of it, he would have made the team out of camp had he not been injured. There's no reason to rush him. There's still time there. See if they have any problems on defense, or if you need to use somebody up higher in the depth chart right now as a trade piece to get something else you want. You can slot him in and see where he can take you.
And scoring's been a bit of an issue as of late, which it hasn't really been for, all season, of course. It's great to have, a Vesna caliber goalie, and the defense that they've played for the most part has been nothing short of stellar. But it would be nice to get one of those like top quality goal scorers at the deadline that may be shopped around. And, going back to conversation that we've had in the past, seeing a guy like Sean Monahan on the Jets. I mean, I would love to see that, but well, I guess it remains to be seen.
Yeah, you just have to avoid the trap of buying in a seller's market and trying to overtake your division rivals for the same player, getting bid up, paying way too much.
Yeah. And we've seen other teams do that before. We've seen them sell the farm for one guy that doesn't quite pan out. That's not just a hockey thing. I mean, that's all across sports.
Oh, of course. Yeah,
I
you don't
mean,
want to throw away your future for one kick at the can when it's a 1 in 32 shot at this point. I mean, 1 out of 16 by the time you get to the playoffs because half the teams are gone. And at the trade deadline, that about 10 or 12 of them are gone already, but still. Those aren't
mhm.
great odds to get rid of your future for.
And speaking of like trades in sports and whatnot, switching gears a little bit, and this might be coming out of left field. Maybe there's a pun intended there, but you could be in a situation like the Pittsburgh Pirates are, and every trade deadline just be like, okay, anybody that's an MLB talent, we're going to trade them to try to build our future. And then the very next year, okay, let's try to build our future again. The future
You get
never
on that
comes.
treadmill and you're stuck.
So I guess there's more than one problem there, but I mean, the
The
Pirates
first
found a
problem is that you're the Pittsburgh Pirates.
yes, that is also a problem. It's been a problem since 1979, but or sorry, 1980, I should say, because they won the series in '79. But yeah, it's been a problem since 1980.
It hasn't been a lot of good times in Pittsburgh for the baseball scene.
No, and not much for the football team either.
They've had a
um,
few more good years than the Pirates have, though.
Recently, yes, but this was something that I was talking about at work today. I was asked the question, is Mike Tomlin a good coach? And I was like, okay, I'll say this. I think he's a good coach. I don't think I think he could be a great coach, but I think he's a good coach that got complacent. And complacency kills, and that's what's happening to the Steelers. They'll be good enough to get you at least a winning record because everybody says Mike Tomlin has never had a losing season, which he hasn't, as a head coach. But I mean, like he's 4 of those seasons, he has had a playoff win out of 17 non-losing seasons. We won't say winning because a couple of those were 8-8.
Yes, back when you could finish 500 in the NFL.
Yes. That is kind of funny that they threw a wrench in things for the 17th game.
Like, why not just bump it to 18 and be done with it?
Mm-hmm. But what do I know? I guess I'm just
I know, right? We're just here slinging opinions, right?
yep. And now, while we're on the subject of football, I feel like this is a great segue, and you know where I'm going with this for all of the Bombers news that's been seemingly coming down the pipeline like between the last 2 days.
Left, right, and center. It seems like.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and if I'm going to make a terrible segue, they did re-sign center Chris Kolinkowski. Johnny Augustine is back too, but Jackson Jeffcoat's going to test free agency.
Yeah.
I'm trying to read my notes. I'm having trouble because I at some point during the day I just started scribbling STREVY all over it. So you
Gee, I
have
wonder
to
why.
excuse me. I no idea. Actually, unfortunately, my fur coat and my cowboy hat they're at the cleaners, so I couldn't.
That was just perfect on the Bombers Facebook to post that today and just said soon at the bottom. I saw that and like, okay, it would be let's be honest with ourselves, be a great reunion, but at what price?
We do know the price from the sounds of it.
Well,
120K.
I mean, a certain number 20.
Yeah, but so let me defend the Strebler signing in the financial
Okay.
sense. He's going to be your backup. He's making 120. Some teams have backups a little bit higher, some teams have backups a little bit lower, but he also fills that role that Dakota Prukop had last year of third down quarterback, where that's literally all Dakota Prukop was there for, was the third and shorts, or, oh, look, we got him in a bad defense after we did third down. Let's run one or two plays with him as the running quarterback. Strevler's 10 times the running quarterback that Dakota Prukop is. And Dakota Prukop, I guarantee you, did not play for the rookie minimum last year. So they were not throwing a lot of money at it as far as that goes.
That's
He's got
fair.
he has incentives in his contract where play time equals more money. But if he has enough play time to trigger those incentives, presumably Zach Claros is on the 6th game, which A would be terrible, but B, some of the money off of Zach's cap would be gone, and Strevler's money would fill that in at that point.
That's fair. I like the analysis. I mean, don't get me wrong. I am not mad about the signing. I'm
No,
very happy about the signing.
most fans from other teams are sitting there going, "Why are you guys so crazy about this?" I can tell you why.
I'd love to hear it.
He hit the emotional high point that Bomber fans have been waiting for 30 years, stepped on the gas and made him the most popular guy in the province overnight.
Oh yeah,
And
absolutely.
now you have a chance. He went to the NFL, played well enough to get into games, got to see some action. He's back after 4 years of NFL training, seems to have become a better player. So don't mind us for being excited to A, have a celebrity back, and B, have one that may be better than he was when he was here. And when he was here, he was good enough to be a solid backup quarterback. Not the guy you'd want to start 18. But if he's starting for you for a month, you're not in trouble.
And you think too, like the quarterbacks that he's been with, God, when was he with the what year was he with the Jets? Because I think that was when Flacco was there. And Flacco, obviously a very experienced quarterback in his own right. And we saw this year that he could just get up off the couch and
Mm-hmm.
take the Browns to the playoffs.
Which,
And
I mean, is a feat for anybody, much less
yeah,
a guy that supposedly retired.
yeah, and I mean, when you say that you're taking the Browns to a Super Bowl, you're not usually talking about the football team.
No,
Usually
that's
talking
usually
about
a
something else.
euphemism for something else.
But another guy that in the quarterback room when he was with Arizona was Kyler Murray.
Yeah.
Another, some like to give him the Dak treatment, but let's not discount. Kyler is not a bad quarterback. He might not be your Patrick Mahomes, but he's no he shouldn't get the Dak treatment.
No, but I mean, who is Patrick Mahomes besides Patrick Mahomes? So that's not really a fair comparison for anybody.
Cam Newton thinks he's Patrick Mahomes.
Cam Newton's wrong.
Kim, he posted something recently. I believe it was on X where he was like, back when I was in, there was only one of me. Now there's a whole league full of me's, referencing like Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson and CJ Stroud. And I was like, okay, I'm sorry, but if you want to go that route, if you want to say these guys are you, then they're a better you than you.
That's the idea. Players get better. Players get better and more talented as we go, and the game just continues to become more and more of a talent game instead of
Mm-hmm.
instead of having these wide gaps of talent between teams. The talent level is so high in the league now that those gaps are like this, and a couple plays, turnovers, coaching, they all have a bigger effect than they used to.
Mm-hmm. And if you want to split hairs here, there was a Cam Newton before Cam Newton got into the league, and his name was Michael Vick. Obviously he had some off the field issues, but like if we're talking strictly football here, he played a similar style, and he was lefty. So
Yeah,
like,
and then there was Randall Cunningham before that, and before Randall
yeah,
Cunningham, there was the CFL quarterback stable of the 80s.
yeah. So there's a lot of Cam Newtons out there when he thought that he was the only one.
He wasn't the only one. He was a good one.
Yeah, he
I'm
was
not going to tell you
good,
he wasn't.
but he wasn't a trailblazer like he tried to say there. And I mean I can you know dissect that all I want. Cam Newton is not only a better quarterback but a better athlete than I am, and probably better at a lot of things than I am if I'm being honest. But that's just if you're going to try to go that route, then let's not forget some of the great actual trailblazers that were out there.
And there were many, and they kept evolving the quarterback position to where now Patrick Mahomes isn't looked at as a different kind of quarterback. Jordan Love isn't looked at as a different kind of quarterback. They're looked at as this is the way the game is evolving to.
Hmm. And one of the things, and again, me, I have no skin in the game. I'm not a Packers fan or a Vikings fan by that matter, but it's kind of nice to see a guy like Jordan Love have those shades of the nostalgia, if you will. Like, he has some Brett Favre esque throws for good and bad, but it's Green Bay is doing something right with that the way they develop quarterbacks. I gotta say.
Yeah, the quarterback coach for a bunch of years wore this logo. So
That's
I
also
would
true.
say I would say that he's done pretty well developing quarterbacks.
Yeah. Now, kind of, switching focus a little bit, we are talking about free agency signings. We're talking about those that want to test the free agency market. Now, when does the negotiation window open? When does it close? What are your thoughts? What do you got?
So it looks, yeah, so it's February 4th at noon Eastern. So all these times are going to be Eastern, so I don't repeat myself over and over. So that means any player that's a free agent is still officially under contract with their teams until February 13th. But February 4th allows the rest of the league a chance to negotiate before the official start of free agency. They can make an official offer. It would go into a database that the league and the PA have. That window closes February 11th at noon. Then then the players' original teams have 48 hours of exclusive negotiating time, and then players can start accepting some of these offers that are in the database as of 10 a.m. on February the 13th. And if they don't like what's in there, they become officially free agents as of noon on the 13th. And I gotta tell you, there's a lot of running backs that may end up being free agents from the looks of things.
That was one of my next questions too. What do you think Winnipeg needs best to be able to continue this streak of getting to the Grey Cup, but maybe finally being able to get the monkey off our back and finally win this time around? We bring our shoes, or we make to the dance, we forget our shoes.
Yeah, so a better pair of shoes would help. Um, I would hate to see Brady Oliveira play somewhere else, but as time goes and he's unsigned, that the chances of that go up. I think if he officially hits free agency, he's probably gone.
Sure.
But there are a lot of guys out there, including William Stanback, who got his release yesterday from Montreal, so he could sign now. He's no longer property of Montreal, so he could sign anytime. There's a glut of running backs in the market, and they're all chasing top dollar. It's going to be very interesting to see where that market settles. I think we're going to start seeing, we're not going to see anybody sign before February 4th at noon, where teams can start throwing offers at players that aren't on their roster. What's going to happen, I think, is I would say by the 6th, 7th, every team's going to have made their pitch, and the dominoes are going to start to fall. I think, and by that, I mean, there'll be a player or two that re-signs with their own team, seeing what they have, and then everybody else will settle in around where they have fallen on the salary scale.
So what you're kind of suggesting here then is kind of like if we're relating it to the NFL, a Todd Gurley situation where he got paid, and then all of a sudden, these other running backs are starting to get, paid a lot more, which is, great for them. But let's not lose sight of the fact that running backs are one of the more less, or should I say, one of the less prolonged careers, just because you're in the trenches, you're getting knocked out every play. It's such a physical position.
Yeah, and Brady Oliveira is younger than most of the free agents out there. He's also got the Canadian passport, which is huge because you have to abide by the ratio, and having a running back with that's Canadian makes it a lot easier to play an American somewhere else. So I think he's gonna be the market trendsetter. He may be the last domino to fall. And if he isn't signed by the end of that negotiation window, I fear where he's going.
Where would you expect him to go? Because I know that there's a lot of places he could, but where would you expect him to land?
Pretty much everywhere's open. Like Brady's a hometown kid.
Yeah.
So if everybody remembers Andrew Harris being a free agent, he was out in Vancouver. He had been out there for a while, but Winnipeg was home. So there was a lot of talk about him coming. Brady's already here, so there's not some other city going, this is home, come back home. So they have that advantage if he wants to stick around. On the other hand, if he's free, it's going to be whoever throws the most cash at him. And seeing the names that are out there right now, AJ Ouellette, Jamal Morrow, Kadeem Carey, Devontae Williams, William Stanback, that's over half the league that doesn't have their starting running back signed at this point. So any of those is fair game. And even ones that do have their guy signed may throw money at Brady and get rid of the guy they have.
Oh, he's even a trade chip too.
Yeah, potentially. If you got a guy signed and some team comes into the end of the merry-go-round without an established guy, they may be tossing a draft pick at you for the guy you've got.
And that's a good way to not fall into the cycle of selling the farm or becoming the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Exactly. Don't become the Pittsburgh Pirates.
In a lot of ways, bottom line, Bob doesn't really like to spend, but what he will do is spend ridiculous amounts of money for washed up talent, like signing Aroldis Chapman, for example. It's great. He still has a little bit in the tank. He could still hurl the ball, in the triple digits, but I'd have been a lot more excited about this signing if it was 10 years ago.
Oh yeah. So should we just start calling him bottom of the standings, Bob, too?
Yeah. Bottom line, Bob. Bottom of the standings, Bob. Whatever you want to call him, just don't call him a champion. Because he ain't going to bring one to Pittsburgh, let's be honest.
No.
Well, we've been busy on the Winnipeg terminal, but even on the personal front. So there's a little bit of a difference in the Dandria house. So we're going to take this bad boy down. We're going to start to make our way in for landing here. But last week, if you tuned in to the Winnipeg Terminal podcast, my wife, you probably saw her walking back and forth around here because I'm in my basement, of course. That's the podcast area at the bar, of course. But we didn't have any carpet upstairs, and we didn't have any room in our kitchen or our bathroom upstairs, just because got new carpet, and we just got that put in yesterday. So yesterday was a lot of taking all the stuff up, and we've got a baby on the way too. So like this whole room right here, which I call my man cave, or the bar I call the parents lounge and stuff. I could not, even with an NA beer, I could not, in good conscience, drink a beer down here because of all of the toys. We're having a little girl, and she's due in 6 weeks, and all of the toys, all of the stuffed animals, and everything that were down here, I could not, in good conscience, have a beer.
Yeah, so just like Princess Autofield, the Dandria household is getting new turf.
Yep, exactly. The throne room, which
there you go.
They named it after my daughter because she's going to be my princess. But yes, they call me the Punisher for a reason because my puns are so bad.
Yep, you got the dad jokes working. Good. You're well under. You got that down already. Next is changing diapers. Good luck with that.
Oh, yeah, I'm not excited for that. But you know what? I had a moment, speaking of dad jokes, I had a moment that I knew I was ready to be a dad. This was like 2 or 3 weeks ago. We still had snow on the ground. And my wife, she had taken out like the trash and the recycling or whatever. But I guess we had like too much stuff in our recycling. So the wind, it was kind of windy that day. It blew one of the cardboard boxes to the side of the house. So she says, go out and grab the box. And then she said, with your boots, because she didn't want, she got to tell me what to do, not walk around in tennis shoes in the snow. So when she said, pick it up with your boots, what do I do? This was at like 7 a.m. So I'm still at my job. And I get off work at about 12:30, 1 o'clock generally, because I go in at butt crack early. And anyways, so 7 hours later, I go out, I pick up the box, I bring it into my garage, I take my boots, put them on my hands, and I'm holding the box like this with a really confused look on my face. I make sure that my phone has a little timer on the camera, and I took the picture and was like, okay, I grabbed it with my boots. Now what? That's when I knew I was ready to be a dad.
Yeah, and that's when she knew she was raising two of you.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. And you know what? My daughter, she's obviously going to be born here in a couple of weeks. By the time she's probably 8 months old, she's probably going to be more mature than her dad.
Yeah, and there's always that possibility. So far, thankfully, I'm ahead of my 6-year-old, but probably not for too much longer.
Not much longer. You guys just got the one?
We got the one, and he had a little. They do a little travel thing in his kindergarten class where each week they travel to a different country. The first week they did Canada, which I wholeheartedly approved of. And they do show and tell on Fridays. So my wife had to say, you can only send so many things. You can't just take your basement and take it over to school. That's just not going to be feasible.
Oh my.
Yeah.
That is great, though.
So he's coming home. So he's coming home with worksheets talking about the Mounties. So I bring out the picture that I have on my Twitter header. Yeah, I'm ahead of you. I know this already. We're good.
Does he go with you on your trips sometimes?
He has not come to Canada yet, mostly because those tend to be easy trips I take alone, but not always.
Sure.
But like most of the family stuff, we went to Arizona last summer or last
fun
winter. Most of that, my wife tends to like to go to warmer places in Canada, which is pretty much everywhere. So she's also done her loop of Canada with me. Really, the only places she's missed is Alberta so far, and that was supposed to be 2017, the year he was born. So that trip got canceled before it was booked, thankfully.
Sure.
But it'll
Yeah.
happen at some point. We got to hit Banff at some point.
Oh, I want to go to Banff. I was actually with Scooter, so with the Elks Call. He and I were. I went to visit him, and we talked about like going to Banff or whatever. But thing is while I was there, this was just a couple days before COVID, and then COVID happened while I was there, and I ended up leaving a day early because I heard the rumors of them closing the border back to the States and like even like turning down Americans. And so I was like, uh-oh, I don't want to be stuck here. I mean, I'd love to hang out with the boys a little longer, but I got bills to pay back home. So, it would have been nice to get that like, 600 a week or whatever. That'd be great, but I still would have liked to been in my own house.
Yeah. So I actually had a trip extended because a COVID restriction got lifted.
Oh.
So it was 2022. I got sent to the opener because around Valentine's Day that year, my wife got sick of me being upset about something at work, and she's like, "You know what? You shush. You're having a better day than you think. You're now going to the home opener so you can see the banner drop." Because usually I go to Banjo Bowl, but that year she sent me to the home opener. So I'm thinking I'm going to leave Sunday, fly in Friday, home opener, go home on Sunday. And it turns out that, oh, by the way, if you wait one more day, you don't have to take a COVID test to get back in the States. And she sends that to me and says, extend your trip one day. Like, you don't have to tell me twice. Delta, done.
Yeah, no kidding.
Okay, I'll spend another day on the couch here. I'll have fun.
Those COVID tests were not fun, too. Oh, did I hate those.
But hopefully that's in the past. Hopefully we don't
ever
see anything like that again. No.
Yeah, no. I mean, I know that like COVID's going around and everything, but like we would like to see it eradicated. But I'm sure they said the same thing about the Spanish flu. But at least now it's like, okay, it is flu season, blah, blah, blah. We know what to expect going in, and it you don't have those uncomfortable tests for the flu.
No, just the uncomfortableness of it all was no fun. Hopefully it did some good though.
Right. I was gonna say there was some good that came out of it too. But wow, here we are talking about the COVID now. Boy, I love seeing where our conversations stray.
We just go all over the place.
Yeah, on the takeoff and the landing, especially. Those are where all bets are off.
Yep. Hopefully we don't crash this thing into a hill at some point.
I mean, we did have some turbulence when we were trying to do, what was it, 2 weeks ago? We hit quite a bit of turbulence, but you know what? We still landed the plane. That's all that matters.
Yep, just as long as it's not nose first.
Yeah. Well, I think that speaking of landing, I think that is it. We are the Winnipeg terminal. We are clear for landing for the dub. Go Jets, go.